The calm that came before the repricing. It felt earned. After months of uncertainty, the market finally seemed at peace. Volatility faded. Ranges tightened. Confidence returned quietly without celebration. This story matters now because calm is often misunderstood. It feels like resolution, but it can also be preparation. When calm arrives without conviction, it doesn't mean risk is gone. It means risk is waiting. To understand how repricing begins long before prices actually move, we need to look at the calm that fooled almost everyone. The misreading of calm is one of the most persistent errors in market participation, and it persists because it is psychologically natural. Calm feels like relief. After periods of stress, the absence of volatility registers as restoration. The system appears to be healing. Confidence that had been damaged begins to rebuild. And in the middle of that apparent restoration, almost no one wants to ask whether the calm is real, whether it reflects genuine resolution or merely the temporary exhaustion of the forces that have been driving stress. It began after repeated stress had exhausted participants. Whipsaws faded. Headlines lost urgency. The market settled into a narrow rhythm that felt reassuring. Stability was welcomed, even praised, as a sign of maturity. But the first reveal was subtle. Calm didn't attract commitment. It reduced it. Traders stopped pressing positions. Investors hesitated to add exposure. The market was stable, but no one trusted it enough to lean forward. Inside institutions, the tone was cautious. Calm was treated as fragile. Risk committees warned against complacency. Exposure was held, not expanded. The system wasn't celebrating calm. It was surviving it. Liquidity reflected the same hesitation. Depth appeared during quiet sessions, then vanished quickly when tested. Calm wasn't supported by belief. It was supported by restraint. The most telling signal was how participants spoke about risk, not with fear, with skepticism. The question wasn't what could go wrong. It was what would force things to move again. Because calm without conviction isn't equilibrium. It's compression, and compression doesn't last. The calm that came before the repricing wasn't a sign that danger had passed. It was a sign that danger was being postponed. And postponed risk doesn't disappear. It accumulates, waiting for the moment when calm can no longer hold it together. As calm persisted, it began reshaping behavior in quiet ways. Participants shortened holding periods. Profits were taken quickly. Losses were cut even faster. The market wasn't confident enough to reward patience. The reveal deepened when volatility stayed low despite growing uncertainty. Normally, doubt brings movement. Here, doubt brought stillness. Positions were reduced preemptively. Exposure was capped. Calm was maintained by withdrawal, not agreement. The early conflict emerged when minor events produced outsized tension. Nothing dramatic happened, but everyone reacted as if something might. Liquidity thinned at the first sign of movement. Prices stalled, then snapped back, never building momentum. Institutions adjusted their playbooks. Calm was no longer treated as opportunity. It was treated as warning. Stress scenarios expanded. Assumptions were revised. The market was being managed offensively, not exploited offensively. This was the paradox. Calm felt safe, yet encouraged caution. It removed urgency, but increased sensitivity. Participants weren't afraid of volatility. They were afraid of surprise. And surprise feels most dangerous when movement has been absent for too long. The calm that came before the repricing wasn't neutral. It was unstable. Because it existed without belief, without commitment, and without leadership, the market wasn't balanced. It was waiting. And waiting, when shared widely, becomes pressure with no release valve. The repricing didn't need a catalyst. It only needed time. The pressure finally surfaced when the market was forced to move, not by panic, not by shock, by necessity. A routine adjustment arrived, the kind the system had postponed reacting to for weeks. The conflict intensified immediately. Calm unraveled faster than anyone expected. Liquidity thinned at critical levels. Prices moved further than the event justified. Participants who had grown accustomed to stillness reacted defensively, stepping back instead of leaning in. Volatility returned unevenly, not explosive, persistent. Moves extended without momentum, then reversed without confidence. The market felt unsteady because it had forgotten how to move with conviction. Correlation rose quietly. Assets that once diversified risk began traveling together. The calm had already synchronized behavior long before price revealed it. Diversification failed because belief had been absent for too long. Inside institutions, alarms shifted tone. Not urgent, but serious. The repricing had begun, not as a reaction to fear, but as a release of stored tension. The market wasn't discovering new information. It was acknowledging ignored information. Attempts to slow the move struggled. Reassurance carried little weight. Calm had lasted too long to feel trustworthy. Participants wanted proof, not promises. The repricing accelerated as exits became crowded. Not chaotic, efficient. The market wasn't panicking. It was adjusting. The calm that once felt stabilizing now revealed its true nature. It had delayed decision, and delayed decision concentrates consequence. The repricing was no longer a possibility. It was underway, and it would not stop until belief found a new price. The climax resolved through acceptance rather than collapse. The market finally priced what calm had been concealing. Not fear, not crisis, just uncertainty that had gone too long without expression. Prices adjusted decisively. Liquidity returned selectively. Participants re-entered carefully, demanding compensation for a risk that had been ignored. Calm gave way to clarity, not comfort. The resolution unfolded as belief reset. Exposure was rebuilt slowly. Time horizons shortened. Conviction returned only where structure supported it. The market regained movement by abandoning illusion. In hindsight, the calm had been misleading. It wasn't equilibrium. It was compression without confidence. The repricing wasn't sudden. It was overdue. Modern relevance is constant. Markets still mistake calm for safety. Still underestimate the danger of silence. Still delay decisions until movement becomes unavoidable. The lesson isn't to fear quiet markets. It's to question them. Because calm without conviction doesn't mean risk is gone. It means risk is waiting. And when it finally moves, it does so with the weight of everything that was postponed. Subscribe to join the journey. What distinguishes genuine calm from calm as compression is the nature of the forces sustaining it. Genuine calm, the kind that reflects true equilibrium, is maintained by active participation. It is a product of buyers and sellers engaging continuously, testing and confirming prices through repeated commitment. Buyers willing to hold, sellers willing to wait. A system in motion, but balanced motion, produced by confidence rather than by absence. Compression, by contrast, is maintained by withdrawal. Participants are not actively confirming prices. They are declining to challenge them. Liquidity is present not because buyers are committed, but because no one is creating the conditions that would force liquidity to be tested. The calm looks the same on a price chart, but the mechanism sustaining it is entirely different and entirely more fragile. This distinction matters because it determines how the calm will end. Genuine equilibrium, when disturbed, tends to absorb the disturbance. Buyers who have been actively participating step in to absorb additional supply. The balance is temporarily disrupted and then restored because the underlying commitment that created it is still present. Compression, when disturbed, tend to collapse. There is nothing to absorb the disturbance because there was never genuine commitment sustaining the surface stability. The first test reveals that the appearance of depth was an illusion, that liquidity existed only because it had not been required to do anything. When it is finally required, it is nowhere to be found. The repricing that follows is not a correction of an overpriced market. It is a revelation of a market that was never priced at all, only left undisturbed for long enough that its undisturbed state was mistaken for an accurate reflection of value. Recognizing compression requires accepting that calm can be dangerous, that the absence of volatility is not always a sign of health. It requires asking, during periods of stillness, what is sustaining the stillness? Whose commitment is holding prices here? And what would happen if that commitment were tested? These questions are uncomfortable during calm periods, precisely because they seem to invite the disruption they are asking about. But they are the questions that make the difference between participants who are prepared when compression ends and those who are caught entirely by surprise. The calm